For this episode, we are here with Harrison Hayman, our guest. Harrison is a restaurateur, the founder of the Feed Philly Coalition, and the senior fellow for the food economy and policy at the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia. Harrison, welcome.
Thank you, Charlie. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting with you this afternoon.
For today, we are going to cover some highlights on the who, when, where, and what of you and your career.
Okay.
So let's dig into some personal background.
Sure.
Where did you grow up?
Didn't grow up in any one place. I consider myself from Salisbury, Maryland, although I lived there very briefly when I was born. I was born in D.C. My dad was going to Georgetown, then Alexandria and Clane and various cities right outside of D.C., and then Baltimore, and then Jersey and New York and Mexico and Venezuela and London, all over.
Sometimes people that are in families with military
Mhm.
move.
Yeah.
Was your father at all in the services?
No, he was and is an international banker. So as a result of his work, and so lived in Venice, just to be accurate, lived in Venezuela, extended stays in Mexico and London. Yeah.
So you have perspective.
I do.
Across a multicultural dynamic.
Yes, I think that's one of the benefits at the time when you're in fourth grade. All you want to do is sort of hang with your friends, play ball, and all that stuff. The last thing you want to do is be traipsing off to Venezuela. But like I said, it really, like you said, it gave perspective. And looking back on it, I think it was an invaluable experience.
First, education path, grade school up through high school, and then that'll lead into the question about the first job. So let's start with the ed.
Go all the way back to Radnor Middle School, Radnor Elementary, Radnor Middle, and Radnor High. So a trifecta.
And that's here in the Greater Philadelphia suburb.
West of here, about 45 minutes west of here, on the famed main line. So yeah. We were in and out of there, so we stopped and then traveled and then came back. My dad wanted us to be in one place and not bouncing around for high school, which was great. Then I went off to the American University to get my undergraduate degree in international business and finance. Returned to Philadelphia and started at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Took a leave of absence to pursue the restaurant stuff. And then went back recently to the Fox School of Business, did the EMBA in social entrepreneurship, which really combines my professional work experience and my desire to leave the world a better place, and I found it on the back nine.
And the E is the executive?
Executive, yep.
MBA. So with the education, question answered thoroughly, thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
You're welcome, yes.
Back to that sort of grade school or high school, first job.
First job was actually in middle school, so I needed dough for some reason. I can't remember exactly what. I'd like to believe to start my investing career, but that wasn't it. Probably to take my girlfriend at the time, Holly, to the Rusty Scupper. But
it's not comic books or
no comic books. So Brendan Flynn got me a job at a veterinarian's assistant at George W. Fisher's on Matson Ford Road.
Great.
Yeah.
Also here in the main line, the suburbs.
Also in the suburbs, yes, sir.
And that's a veterinary
clinic.
Clinic. Right?
Yeah, clinic. So we took care of the animals. We helped take care of the animals.
Some cleaning, probably along the way.
A lot of cleaning, a lot of cages. Yes, exactly.
Which builds maybe character.
Maybe that's where I got it. Maybe that's where I got it.
So I have some other questions, just so people can get to know the personality of some of the people involved in sustainability and this whole enterprise of ours.
Ask away.
Your favorite fruit?
We talked about this a little bit, or maybe not. Fruit is avocado. Fruit. Avocado is actually I did some dialogue since we chatted last. It's actually a berry. Little known, or according to this, I mean, you read
Interesting, because when I had asked you in a conversation prior, you had thought that maybe it was a fruit. And what I found on the internet, now you have to triangulate the information, is that the USDA has deemed it a vegetable, but the botanists call it out as a fruit.
Okay.
Now the berry is new to me.
The berry's new to you?
I'm thinking the berries might be an outlier group. I'm going to do some research.
I'm going through different fruits because I'm part of my. I'm doing Dr. Greger's daily dozen. So fruits are on there. So I'm now eating fruit every day. So I'm trying to mix it up. So lately I've been rocking a little dragon fruit.
Nice.
Yes.
Does that have some nutrients or properties that I should, and our listeners should be aware of?
I hope so. I hope so. I just walk into my local Giant and go with a little variety. So I just saw that bad boy and slice it down, take the skin off, get the seeds out. Nice, citrusy, a little slightly bitter.
Terrific.
But yeah, just watch a little boob tube and eat some fruit.
The sister question is
Sure.
favorite vegetable.
Who is in vogue now?
I mean, the avocado now has to come back into
Does
a
the avocado
conversation
have-
at
well,
some
but if
discussion.
it's a berry.
I didn't even ask about your
What?
favorite berry.
Right. Well, okay. So if we're not going to berry, then I am a fan of the avocado. I've been really enjoying and it's interesting. Speaking of Venezuela and moving around and trying to tie this all together, when we lived in Venezuela, we had an avocado tree and a mango tree, and neither which I enjoyed when I lived in Venezuela. Now I can't get enough of either one of them.
Well, there's a superfood category,
Yep.
and avocados have fallen into that
Yep.
category,
Yep.
I think because of the healthy fats and all the
Yep.
things we've learned.
Yep.
Do you have any guidance or predictions for our audience on where maybe avocados could be grown perhaps locally? Because with sustainability, moving them now from
Sure.
California or Mexico to Philadelphia, not to mention other cities, is a handicap when it comes to carbon output.
Funny you should ask, and a great question. I believe, and I think the science backs me up on this, but I believe they can be grown locally. And I think in our lifetime, and I'm old, we will look back on the days when we were traipsing stuff halfway across the world as barbaric and archaic and just simply foolish. We see now the damage that it's doing to the environment, contributing to the damage that we're doing to the environment, but also just on a very practical sense, we're outsourcing jobs and we're outsourcing all the ability to control our own, be masters of our own destiny, control our own means of production. Not to mention all the nutrients that are lost in transit, so it just makes sense on a number of different levels.
And I've heard that for each day in transit, whether it's truck or train, overseas, sometimes even by airplane now for exotic produce, you're seeing this diminishing nutrient level, and it's crazy to think that it might look green and fresh, but it's been truck or train ripened.
Sure.
And do you think that the controlled environment agriculture, the indoor farming, has a potential place? Because growing avocados in the winter in Philadelphia isn't going to happen.
And
from a weather standpoint.
Without controlling your environment.
Outdoor planting for exotics.
Outdoor planting, sure. Well, I don't think exotics would work here any season, really, because I think part of the reason why some of these fruits and vegetables, back to your original question, grow in certain regions, Brazil, South America, other parts of South America, Asia, because the environment there is conducive, whether it be the humidity level, the pH level, the nutrients in the soil, all that stuff. They can only grow there because you could only the environment only that environment existed there. So now we can recreate those environments with artificial means to create sustainable growing environments for all the fruits and vegetables.
So those artificial means, and this is really interesting just because the word artificial, I think, sometimes has pushed people back on their heels, is I've told people that a photon's a photon. So if it's an LED light, it's not mimicking something in a negative way to grow it. It's actually taking the photons, right?
Maybe artificial is the wrong word.
I'm not saying it's the wrong word.
No, I agree.
It is produced, but this idea of controlled environment agriculture, the CEA, could be that path that you're talking about to bring some of those fruits and vegetables closer to where people eat.
I think so. And we touched upon it as we opened as the senior fellow to the food economy and policy. Part of my charge is to create things locally, create things diversely, and create things equitably. And nothing gets more local than urban agriculture in all facets, but certainly to do it all year round. Controlled environment agriculture, whether it be through greenhouses or indoor agriculture, is certainly something we need, I think, to take a hard look at.
And you're thinking that maybe that farm to table distance could be a handful of miles, if not
Correct.
shorter, than tens of miles, hundreds or thousands
Yes,
from across the country.
absolutely.
Next question for the personal review.
Sure.
This is great. I really enjoyed speaking
Good.
with you today. But the
Mhm.
ideal last meal and where you would want to eat it.
Mhm. Well, hopefully that's nowhere soon. I've had some great meals. The travel that I mentioned earlier with my father. I don't know that I could pick one great one, but I remember being in London with my dad and going down an alley with, sort of, I mean, this is the way I remember. I don't know if it's exactly the way it actually happened, but, smoke and fog down this alley, pushed through these doors and went down some metal stairs and went through a right and went through some double doors, and it was just this packed, most amazing Chinese restaurant that my dad took me to. My dad took it upon himself to really know. He wouldn't go to all the sort of typical tourist places or where the other
Sure.
Yeah, he would ask the locals, where should I go for the good grub, and so I remember that. So and I think I know from the restaurant experiences, a lot of our enjoyment of meals, the food, yes, obviously has to be good, but it's the whole experience of that. That was very cool to be there with my dad in this sort of
Nice.
off the beaten path Chinese food restaurant. So that would be it.
A life motto.
Yes. Well, let's see. I think Jalen Hurts has given me a new one, given all of us a new one. You win or you learn. So and that's a good one. I've probably.
I was just going to say for
Yeah.
our audience,
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is the quarterback
Oh,
for
sure.
our Philadelphia
Yes,
Eagles,
yes.
and we have suffered the loss
Yes.
of a Super Bowl.
We have, yes, for context, yes. When people were listening to this many years later in a time capsule, when their aliens have come into the earth to learn about us. So yes, the Eagles recently lost a Super Bowl in the jaw from right after losing it. I was struck. I think as a lot of people were, the losing quarterback had incredible perspective. And having spent the first half of my life in the restaurant business and having had a number of successes, and people are certainly aware of the successes, I've also had a number of things that haven't worked out, and those are almost as valuable sometimes as the things that have worked out. So the new life motto is sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So let's go with that.
Terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Examples of sustainable living in your own life.
Need to do more, but back to the aforementioned indoor agriculture, doing that in my apartment, and looking to introduce more things like that, just be more of a socially conscious, socially aware individual. But trying to stay away from, as you mentioned, my juice was in a plastic container, so I'm going to heed your advice and try and be that guy with the brings his own receptacle, so I don't contribute to the downward spiral. So I'm decent, but I could be better.
Well, I think you're from our prior conversation on a plant-based diet.
I am.
Are you
Oh yeah.
80 or 90 to 10% with fish? Tell us.
Yeah.
where you are
No,
there.
I think I'm closer to that. I was probably no red meat for, I don't know, 30 years or more. So a long time with that, and then it was a dance with fish and fowl, and then it's probably been a couple of years, no fish or no fowl. Occasionally, unfortunately or fortunately, down at the Ocean City, Maryland, and Temptation Sings. So here and there, I'm not maniacal about it. If something comes across and I want to try it or dabble here and there, I do. But as general rule of thumb, 6-7 days a week, plant-based diet.
And so without the livestock, I mean, as a sustainable living asset, reducing the production of the livestock by not eating as much, is a small but critical spoke, I think, on the wheel of sustainable living. It's not just the methane and the output, but it's the land use that we're starting to learn.
It makes no sense to me now that, especially now that we can, the ethical side of the equation aside, just looking, as you said, at the environment and the planet, now that we can grow it in not having to destroy land and all the things that you mentioned, I'm just not sure why we're not doing that or pursuing that. But that's a whole nother larger question of why people do things and don't do things.
The teaser to the answer, I think, is the industrial food complex.
Sure.
Right, this industrial agricultural machine.
Yeah. That is the answer.
Is so big and powerful. You know, I think it was President Eisenhower said, beware of the industrial military complex.
Okay.
Well, the industrial agriculture complex is this behemoth that has been running.
Yeah.
And so change is slow.
Sure.
And we'll see if we can incrementally, a podcast like this and a broadcast might.
Maybe we'll change some minds. We'll change some minds out there. People will start to look into it. Yeah, no doubt. That's part of the answer, or a large part of the answer.
I want to pivot here from the personal to the business.
Okay.
And ask about.
I'll probably feel more comfortable with the business than I do with the person. So.
We've checked the box for a lot of the personal. The essential business philosophy over the years. Have you had a guiding philosophy?
The one Aristotle says, what we repeatedly do. I'm a fan of getting up early, being the first one there. Trying to figure it out early, so can't stay up as late as I used to. So I was used to be the first one there and the last one to leave. But certainly, being the first one there, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and trying to get after it has really been something that I've something that I've embraced in my career. Although I'm recently questioning the wisdom of that. As you get older, it's more difficult to be the first one there and the last one to leave. So I'm certainly not the last one to leave now. That's for darn sure. But it's a matter of working smarter, not harder. So as I'm in this conversation this morning, but yeah.
I love it. That's kind of putting in the time, though. It sounds like is one of those foundational things over the years.
I think that was one of the things where the people I worked with, they would say, let's get this. We all had our marching orders we would meet or whatever, and I'd be up. It just bothered me. I had something to do. I just couldn't lay around, couldn't sleep. Had to get up and at it the next day. And I think it served me well in my career to date.
It's a lead-in, Harrison, for the next question on the business front, which is about one of the ways, or even the best way, that you've been able to keep a competitive edge. So any thoughts there on how you've done it?
Sure. I guess my career in the restaurant business has been, three parts of it. The first part, I worked with Roberto Alvarez in Washington, D.C. in a restaurant group down there that included Haleo and Cafe Atlantico and a bunch of other restaurants. And I think a lot of people are familiar with Jose Andres. And, so Jose and I started working together when I was 20 and I think he was 19 or thereabouts. We were both very young. So one thing that we were very unique in terms of our concepts. Maybe not totally unique, but one of the first places to have tapas and one of the first places to be upscale Caribbean with Cafe Atlantico. So being innovative, but always, Roberto always taught me to make sure the guests had to enjoy themselves, not what you did for them, it's how you felt. So how you felt. So maybe that's the motto throughout. It's, even running Wild and Crazy Irish Party bars across the country, it's that, people, they had a good time. We sold a good time, and then even now with the jazz clubs, it's how you make people feel. The food's good, the drinks are good, certainly the ambiance is good. But if they're able to walk away in those three different environments and enjoy themselves, then that's the most important thing. So that's been a differential advantage to be able to create an environment for people to enjoy themselves, despite the overall demographic base that we're trying to appeal to.
That's a tie-in also to this sort of yardstick of success. Am I hearing that it was sort of like their satisfaction? Is this the customer's sort of first in a way?
Well, yes and no.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure,
it depends. I mean, now in my career, that is 100% all that really matters. I mean, so we sort of turned our back on other ways of making more money. Don't do clubs like we used to when we were younger. Really just, that's our metric, is really just, how people, if they're happy, if they're happy, we're happy. I mean, we also sort of we also work for ourselves, and we hold ourselves to the highest standard. But I did for a little while run Wild and Crazy Irish Party Bars, and that was definitely a dollar and cents issue. So that was definitely driven by the almighty dollar.
The next question ties into the Feed Philly Coalition,
Mm-hmm.
what you've done, and also now with the Economy League, but goal yet to be achieved.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, I play in the food insecurity space. I'm trying to figure out how to feed the less fortunate. Started the Feed Philly Coalition was my attempt to my part to help. As the name suggested, coalition. We all need to work together if we're going to be successful in addressing this issue. I played initially in the space of upcycling food, encouraging restaurants to do the same. Introduced legislation to the city of Philadelphia to pay, quote unquote, pay restaurants to do the right thing. A $4,000 Burke tax credit if you upcycled food. Pandemic hit. We had to feed people. All hands on deck. Got it. But also recognize that the ability to do good was directly proportional to the cost of goods, the food. And as food prices went up, people's ability to do good diminished, not rocket science. So during the course of going back to school and finishing up my MBA in social entrepreneurship, I looked around for the opportunity where I could work with the entire system, work on top of the food economy, and try and get everybody firing on all cylinders. And that's how I found myself with the Greater Philadelphia Economy League, working on food economy and policy. And that's also how I found myself as a proponent of indoor agriculture, or controlled environmental agriculture, as a way that I believe is a way that we can potentially feed the less fortunate, or make a dent in it.
With that social entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
I'd love you to share a little tie into like the projects that you're currently working on, and also
Sure.
describe for our audience that social entrepreneurship versus just straight entrepreneurships,
Mm-hmm.
because MBAs are perceived
Yeah.
as like the master business administration,
Sure,
going
sure.
after the dollars.
Sure. Well, like as you alluded to, it's not just about the dollar. It's looking at the overall impact of your business and the footprint what you're doing to the world around you. And what I see social entrepreneurship personally, in the definition I give it myself, is the business of doing good. So I believe that you can still make a living and do the right thing. You can do both. So I assume that within, and I don't know this, but I think social entrepreneurship itself is the business of doing good. I think you can act in a manner that is socially conscious and still do business. But certainly there are those that just, the bottom line is the bottom line.
We've seen here with the B Corps,
Mm-hmm.
the founders are from the greater Philadelphia area, that
Mm-hmm.
there may be that balance also
Yep.
between benevolence,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the B stands for, it almost
Right.
doesn't matter, but the idea of a nonprofit, trying to do good, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
the for-profit with a B Corp is sort of a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see as that sort of classification has started to really grow over the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, one of the projects I'm working on is to bring indoor agriculture, controlled environmental agriculture, to scale to Philadelphia, and right now really just figuring out how exactly can it work. And the B Corp has come up as the possible scenario that can work the best, and have a B Corp sit on top of indoor farm operators, and the overall mission of the B Corp is to do good, but it recognizes that it also has to be profitable in order to be able to do good for any extended period of time.
The other term that I've heard is this venture philanthropy,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting, where the donation might be a set of dollars, and the hope is that they just don't have to keep cutting checks,
right.
that it starts to become seed money,
Right.
not unlike a venture capital company, and then it could replicate patterns of return for dollars and paying staff
Yep.
to stand on its own legs, which is the beginning of a sustainability word.
Absolutely.
Right? The business then becomes sustainable.
Yeah, and
So-
that's kind of what I'm in the process of putting together a plan now, and that's really the way we look at it. Is we just need some money to get up and running, but we won't be coming back, every year saying we need more, and that's one of the reasons why don't want to be relying on grants, don't want to be relying on having our hand out every year. We probably will need some money to get up and running. Certainly we'll pay that back. Certainly we'll pay it. There'll be a healthy return on that. But then once we are up and running, that should be it.
And without sharing information that might be confidential or
Sure.
under development, are there schools, are there private, public partnerships? Give us some flavor of sort of the projects that maybe you're working on that could help get to that goal.
Yeah, I mean, all the above. I mean, I think that's in order for it to be successful, I think it's going to require a lot of stakeholders, rolling up their sleeves and figuring out how to work together to create the, conducive environment for this to be successful. Because I think my understanding, and it's still a learning experience for me, is if you look at it purely from a economic standpoint, can you pay market rate rent? Can you pay market rate utilities? Can you pay market rate labor? And then plan on surviving? The answer, I think, the short answer we're finding out is maybe no. But if everybody works together and try and create an environment where, say, for example, it's not market rate rent because the city of Philadelphia works with the developer or the landlord to create an environment where they can afford to charge this company that's looking to feed people less than market rate, then they can afford to stay in business, and then part of the yield can go to social impact.
I like it. The other pair of words that's interesting is adaptive reuse.
Mm-hmm.
So transforming buildings.
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen, but shopping malls might be
No.
in jeopardy, right? I mean,
Yeah, totally.
Like there could be some empty real estate.
Oh,
from
yeah.
A J.C. Penney's could be a
H&M.
farm school.
Absolutely.
Right? Future food.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. I haven't really figured out why it hasn't happened as of yet. I'm sure I'll find out, but I'm asking people to please consider.
So I can tell you, as an architect trained back in the day here at our University of Pennsylvania,
Yes.
down the street, zoning
Mm-hmm.
has been a hurdle.
Mm.
So meaning growing food
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
would not be deemed retail,
Right.
and it's almost in that industrial, obviously ag sector.
Right.
So part of it with your role in the Economy League could be interesting to shift what could be a mayoral map. The
Mhm.
mayor with the council decides which zones are eligible for certain functions. So
Yep.
the short answer to your question is lots of reasons why it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
But politics is
Yeah, and
part of
I
it.
think that's the reason why the policy part exists as part of the job description, because it certainly at some point involves policy, changing policy.
I have a section here that I just put a star next to called Judgment Calls.
Mhm.
So in the arc of your career, tell us about one of the best decisions that you've made.
I don't know why this just jumped in my head, but we opened a world music dance club way back when I was a young, many moons ago, and not everybody wanted to listen to world music like we did. That's for sure. So we had to make a decision, and we introduced more mainstream music, which at the time, and this is hard to believe, that hip hop was not as ubiquitous as it was.
Sure.
So we made the decision to introduce that. So that was certainly in upon itself was a big decision, and really set our club up for success for many years. But then we were sort of starting to get out there a little bit, and then I decided we were sort of teetering because we had kind of hung on to the world music direction as long as we could. So we were sort of down to our last couple dollars, and it was either pay some vendors, which I'm all a fan of. I pay everybody I know has been, we pay everybody, but it was either pay the vendors and ride see what happens without bringing a big promotion, or bring in Funkmaster Flex. And I voted for Funkmaster Flex.
That's great.
And we did a 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. party, and 9 o'clock nobody, 10 o'clock nobody, 11 o'clock nobody, 12 o'clock. It was on 720 Art Street in Philadelphia, so there was a line to Market Street. So that one night was really what sent us. And then the block party, but we'll save that for the next interview.
I love it. So the sister for that question is a worst decision.
Oh wow, probably those same decisions. With any club, there's there's an arc, there's an arc, and so you sell, in order for, we had success, and we had a lot of success, but it was fast and furious, and so I made that decision. We made that decision knowing that there was a time horizon for that. So.
I'm so glad you brought up those two examples of decisions, because one of the reasons I was so excited to interview you is the vast majority of people involved with sustainable agriculture and living do not have the history of throwing events
right.
at the level of energy that you were able to create. And I think that to really move the needle, some of that energy that you have and the experience of gathering other people's energy could ignite change.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for years and years I played the role for various organizations as the director of operations. So I sat below the owners, so the owners did what the owners do, and then I made all the component parts go. So if you said, go DJ, wouldn't necessarily be the right person to go DJ. If you say, go work security, I could have done it. If you say, go be the bar back, I could have figured it out. Go be the bartender, but I was sitting on, I was able to sort of organize and orchestrate and get everybody kind of moving together to create these successful enterprises, and I'm hoping to apply, the Steve Jobs speech where he talks about connecting the dots at Stanford, right? So I'm just trying to figure out, how do I connect the dots? How do I utilize the experience that I've gained over the last few years of orchestrating and creating and making things go, and apply it to, as opposed to nightclubs or restaurants. It's in a lot of ways the same principles as we're talking about, but just feeding people to scale, right? Just this time it's not the traveling public; it's the people that are more in need.
I love it, and I want to go down this next checklist of true confessions. So we're talking about like simple stuff. There's no tricks here. It's word that best describes you.
Tenacious.
I love it.
Do you love it? Okay. Yes. Someone told me I was very tenacious, and I think that's accurate.
And what do you like best about your current work here? Is there something that wakes you up in the morning that you or when you wake up, you get excited about?
Well, I had trouble getting up this morning because I was a little discouraged by a conversation I had yesterday when someone told me all these things I'm working on, or the facility, the indoor ag thing would take years to pull off, and I was like, it's just inconceivable. I was like, I'm just not used to anything I've ever done taking years. The current restaurant I'm involved with right now, we went 6 weeks from seeing for rent sign to in the doors. We moved, in the Wild and Crazy Irish party bars, we'd walk in and make them an offer they couldn't refuse and give them a check, and we'd be operating months later. So I'm just not used to working in those horizons. So I'm trying to the best of my ability, change those horizons and make stuff happen now. I've got some opportunities that are right in front of me that excite me, and the timeline is here, is now. So, but the short answer to your question is I get to work on a lot of the various things, and I don't know with my personality that I could be, I went to career day back to the Radnor High School, and there was a lot of great careers. There was doctor, and there was lawyer, and there was accountant, and all that stuff. And those are all great. Advertising executive, but it seemed to me they would do that kind of that one thing, and I just don't know if I could do that one thing. So that during the course of my day, because of my various responsibilities and my various involvements in different things, I get to do a lot of different things. That keeps me moving forward.
I think that there's Myers-Briggs studies about personality and all those kind of deep dives, but sometimes it's as simple as like results or process, and people have blends of both. Do you see yourself as more of a results person or a process person?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question.
Well, if the stereotype of process is like the accountant that wants to follow every little step, and eventually you get to some balance sheet.
That's not me.
And the results person is like the go get 'em.
Yeah, that's me.
Wake up and just drive it.
Fire, aim, ready. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I very much am driven by results, and the fact that I have to follow this process in order to get my result is kind of driving me a little bit nuts.
Well, and I asked that question having received the answer, which was the frustration of time.
Yeah.
because the process people actually welcome the rhythm, the time, having the tempo that's slower. What I do think is going to be exciting to hopefully reconnect on other interviews is to see if that enthusiasm and energy you have and the results helps drive something that has largely been mired in a stagnation of process since the first Earth Day in the middle of the 70s.
Yeah, no.
We're talking about 40 years. I mean, this is getting crazy. At some point, we got to do something.
Yeah, and I see it. I mean, I see the complications, but I see it. It plays. It makes sense. I just got to get this guy to do this and this person to do that, and if they would do this. So, yeah, I see it. So I'm hoping that I can bring that, whatever skill set that I do have to this space and make it happen.
Person you would be most interested in meeting?
Well, we just talked about it. I mean, Steve Jobs seems like he'd be a fascinating guy to
Hard now.
Well, I mean, it would be interesting to talk to him now if I was able to figure that out. I mean, hard now. Nelson Mandela would be interesting. Jackie Robinson. Just listened to my friend Ken Frazier over the weekend be interviewed by the Cleveland Clinic, and he's a huge Jackie fan. I'm a huge Jackie fan, so I'm looking forward to connecting with him on that. I mean, Cal Ripken. I'm a Baltimore Orioles fan. He's another one. I mean, he showed up every day, literally, and just over time got the results that he wanted. So, Cal Ripken. And
that ties in with your business model about just putting in the time. Just get there.
Just get there. Just show up. Show up. I mean, that was my dad. My dad taught me. He's like, get in the shower. I try and call out sick. He's just like, dude, start the process. Just go in there. Showing up. Availability is the best. The best ability.
We're coming down to some closer ones here, but the company that you respect most.
The company?
Company. Anyone on the outside, a leader of a company or the company itself?
I don't know a ton about them, but from what I've seen from afar, Patagonia seems pretty darn cool, and now giving up the company to the greater good or to the employees, right?
Yeah, I have to follow up on that too, but I think there was something about sharing and equity and all those good things.
Bombus, I think those guys are great. I mean, Wally Parker sounds great. There's a lot of them. It would be hard to. It's certainly you grew up with Apple. I mean, you just grew up watching Apple from afar. I mean, who doesn't want to be Apple and Nike?
Sure.
I don't know. We'll have to see the movie that's coming out soon. But anybody who's sort of, been a trailblazer in a new area and breaking down walls and not taking no for an answer and kind of trying to do the right thing along the way, I guess would fall in that category.
In this True Confessions cluster of questions, the greatest extravagance, Harrison. Yes, that you have.
That I have? Currently have?
Yes, your current extravagance.
I mean, I think it's watches. I mean, that's been, right? Or no? Is that the right answer? There's no wrong answer?
There's no right or wrong answer.
There's no right or wrong.
Good, so keeping track of time with some...
Stupidly, crazily expensive timepiece, and 42 of them, so just too many of them.
That's ties into a number. Did you get one for each restaurant? Is that about the number of restaurants?
It is, ironically.
So I was doing some
and
research.
Jackie Robinson's number.
So now we have learned something about 42.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
I just circled the number 42 here on my notes.
Yeah, wow.
For the next interview. If you open another restaurant, you're gonna have to get another watch.
Okay. Duly noted. It'll be a lot less expensive than some of the ones that I bought.
So for the bonus info, and then we're going to wrap this one up, is awards, honors. They could include something like this, the fellow, the role that you're having with the Economy League. Anything coming to mind that's sort of been a nice benchmark?
For me?
Yeah, where you were able to hold it up.
Well, my greatest honor, award, and privilege, it has nothing to do with myself. It actually has to do with my brother, Bradley. And every year, my father and I give away the Gray Bradley Hayman Award at the Radnor High School baseball banquet. And it's the only award, as far as I know, other than the participation trophy, which everybody makes fun of, that is really not based on being the best at this or the best at that. Usually it's the best pitcher, it's the best offensive player, best defensive player, MVP, all that stuff. This one's just simply about showing up. And no one loved baseball more than my brother, and we won't have time to get into it today, but he had to persevere through some pretty incredible physical challenges and experiences to make his way back on the baseball field. But every year we give away the Gray Bradley Hayman Award, and that's the one that I'm most proud of.
Wow. We're going to pick a couple more and then close this out. But
Okay.
Favorite way to spend your free time?
Well, it's changed over the years, that's for sure. I am doing something right now, or two things right now, that I'm really finding getting a lot more enjoyment out of than I thought I would. I'm doing Project 500, so Rolling Stone re-released their top 500 albums. They originally put it out in 2012. They re-released in 2022. I got it as a Christmas gift. So each week I'm buying the vinyl, if I don't have it, and listening to the vinyl album and reading about the album. And as I listen to the album, I'm looking at the words and really just trying to be present and really just understand the album, the time period. A lot of the albums I remember coming out, quite honestly, but just trying to revisit. I just listened to Joni Mitchell's Blue from start to finish, and the Pet Shop Boys was the week before that, and then What's Going On with Marvin Gaye. So that's I've really enjoyed that. I've taken a lot. And then my screenwriting class, we were examining Casablanca, and we were talking about all these things that happened. I'm just going, I don't remember that. And I've seen the movie, I mean, many times, but I rewatched it and really enjoyed it. And then so I just Googled the top 100 movies of all time, and didn't realize that I hadn't seen, I mean, I've seen a lot of them, but I hadn't seen all of them, so I've been watching the top 100 classic movies of all time. So that's what I've been doing in my time. And I like to listen to jazz. I like to go to jazz clubs and go to New York and stuff like that, so pop up there when I can.
We're going to wrap with
Okay.
a closing question, which is,
Sure.
Any advice that you'd like to share on living well?
Living well. It's advice that I need to do a better job of myself, but just slow down, appreciate. It's all about looking at. My mom is going through some challenges right now. She's, for those who know me and follow along, she's now living in she's in the process of getting older and not remembering things as much as well as she could or should have. Could or should. And we had a conversation this morning actually, and I said, Mom, I don't necessarily do this, but you can do one of two things. You can look at what you don't have, or look at what you do have, and let's not lose sight of everybody there's very nice, your meals are taken care of, there's a roof over your head, you got clothes, you got a nice little crib here. Everything's taken care of. It's one little, you write a big check, but it's taken care of. So I think it's just a matter of focusing on what you have as opposed to what you don't have. So why don't we end on that?
I love it. Harrison Hayman, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. My absolute pleasure, Charlie. Thank you.